Okay, welcome, and thanks for being here. We're trying something new today. This will be the first in a series of little clips and videos about the Centurions and how you might use them. We're going to just post this separately. This is pulled from episode 4 of Ineptus Astartes, and we're just going to start a little playlist series here on YouTube so that you can listen to this while hobbying or pull it up someplace where it's more easy or convenient to just listen to this little chunk. So anyway, thanks very much. Let me know if you appreciate or get some use out of this new model, and hopefully see updates very soon. Thanks a lot. So first up, we're going to take a look at the Legion Centurion. The standard profile. The Legion Centurion is 60 points. It has a movement 7, weapon skill and ballistic skill 5, strength and toughness of 4, base of 2 wounds. Initiative 5, leadership 9, 3 attacks, and a 2+ save. So that's one difference from those who are players from old. You get free artificer armor. So that's nice. The unit size, of course, is 1 Centurion. It has infantry and character. Standard war gear for the Centurion is bolt pistol, chainsword, artificer armor, refractor field, frag grenades, and crack grenades. The standard special rules are Ineptus Astartes, of course, so you get the benefit of your Legion rules. You do have the independent character rule, Legion Consularis, which allows you to take all of the upgrades that we'll be talking about coming up. And then, of course, the Relentless rule. Relentless is that rule that allows you to move and shoot heavy weapons. So this is mostly going to be useful probably for firing. Well, I mean, you can fire a bolter and you can still charge. You can also fire your Nemesis bolter after moving without snap shooting, so that's good. The Centurion can take a bunch of other options, of course. You can buy them a bolter for 2 points, a Magna Combi weapon for 10, or a Miner for 5. You can give them a Volkite charger for 2 points, which is interesting because it's the same cost as a bolter, so unless you've got a good reason to, you're going to buy them a Volkite charger, if anything. An Astartes shotgun for 2 points, which is fun to think about, or a Nemesis bolter for 10 points. And as I want to point out, your Centurions being able to have Relentless makes the Nemesis bolter pretty appetizing. But 10 points is still 10 points. So anyway, moving on. They can exchange their bolt pistol and or their chainsword for one of the following: a Volkite Serpenta for 2, hand flamer for 2, plasma pistol for 10, chain axe for 5 points, a charnable weapon for 10, a power weapon for 15, power fist for 25, lightning claw for 15, or a thunderhammer for a whopping 30 points. They can also take a free boarding shield, which is interesting. And a Legion Centurion that selects a boarding shield also becomes a heavy unit. If they take this, they can't take combat bike, a Spatha combat bike, a scimitar jet bike, or a jump pack. Now, the Centurion can also exchange both bolt pistol and chainsword for 15 points instead of 15 points for just 1, which is really interesting. So, I mean, you get rid of the other one entirely for free, or get the other Lightning Claw entirely for free. Otherwise, other options are you can take a combat shield for free, melted bombs for 10 points, and then as far as mobility options, the standard Legion Centurion can take a jump pack for 20 points, or a combat bike for 20 points, a scimitar jet bike for 30 points. Also, it should be pointed out that you can't take a jet bike or a scimitar jet bike. You can't take a jet bike or a combat bike if you take 2 lightning claws, which I guess makes sense. Where do I put my hands? Who's driving this thing? Anyway, so those are the basic readout options for this Legion Centurion. So just briefly elaborating on those, the Warhawk jump pack, of course, does grant a bunch of special rules. All of these mobility options just add a bunch of special rules. If you have a jump pack, you become bulky 2. You gain Hammer of Wrath 1, and you can also Deep Strike. And it says that if you were bulky beforehand, you gain bulky 3. I'm having a hard time thinking off the top of my head of any example where that happens. Maybe that's just future-proofing, or maybe I'm forgetting something. You get to change your movement to 12. If you do use that, then you ignore difficult terrain, but if you land in it, then any terrain becomes dangerous terrain. So that's pretty consistent with the way things were in the past editions. So shouldn't be too dissimilar. But I mean, of course, you're flying around with a jetpack, hopping around the board. You land in a ruins. It's a lot more dangerous than just jogging through. You can activate this and still run. You just add the initiative characteristic to 12 to determine how far you can move. But you may not choose to activate the Legion jump pack to gain any bonus to movement characteristic in a reaction or something similar. So similarly, the Spatha combat bike, which is the standard motorcycle, it has its own rules that are added. The bike has a twin-linked bolter, and a model with the combat bike that runs in the movement phase gains Shrouded 5+. So if your character and their escort is scooting along the board, they do get basically free damage mitigation. The bike no longer adds toughness, and that's important to note. They are just regular people on bikes. And they also become cavalry from other unit types that they were before, and may choose to gain the skirmish unit subtype. Their movement becomes 14, and they gain the firing protocols 2 and Hammer of Wrath 1. So firing protocols is that one where your character, your Centurion, can shoot one weapon of their own and still fire the bike gun. So that allows them to shoot 2 weapons. The Spatha combat bike, I mean, I want to like it. You move technically faster than the jump pack, but the big difference here of not ignoring terrain is huge. And also, I think on average, bikes are much more expensive to bring as a babysitter unit for your Centurion. So I'm not sure we'll see a lot of this. I'm probably going to try to experiment it with my White Scars because I did that a little bit in the past, but we shall see. The last option is similar to the Spatha combat bike, the Scimitar jet bike. It's same thing. If you choose to run, you gain Shrouded special rule. You do gain firing protocols 2 and Hammer of Wrath. But Scimitar also gives you deep strike because the jet bikes can apparently just, deploy out of a Thunderhawk or something and fly out of the sky and land on the field, which is pretty neat. I'm a little disappointed that they can't also outflank because, that would make my life easier as a White Scars player. But it's not bad. They become cavalry anti-grav as a unit type as well. It also doesn't say here, but it does say, 1 heavy bolter. So they do get a weapon there as well. So you can fire a heavy bolter and your pistol or whatever else you chose to bring as well. I think you're going to find characters using all 3 of these manipulation or movement methods in the game. Definitely, I think the Warhawk jump pack seems like it'll probably see the most play, in my opinion. It is a little bit cheaper at 20 points as opposed to the 30 for the jet bike, but it doesn't move quite as fast as the combat bike. However, I think being able to jump over terrain is way better than the extra 2 inches of movement. The Scimitar jet bike, if you are fielding jet bikes, I think you'll see these too. But the biggest thing is that there are a ton of different units that have options to gain jump packs, as opposed to maybe fewer that can put on bikes or, Legion special units that have that capacity or whatever else. So I would definitely take a look at a jump pack. If you're going to wield a Centurion and you're going to think about mobility, you're probably going to see jump pack. But, allow your imaginations to run wild. So when going back and looking at the other options available here for the Centurion, some of the things that I noticed that are sort of interesting, the ranged options, the bolter, the Magni combi weapon, the minor combi weapon, the Volkite charger, the shotgun, and then the Nemesis bolter, are pretty similarly priced to what you would get from other unit entries. 10 points per Nemesis bolter is what you pay to upgrade it on a Seeker or a Recon Marine. 2 points for a bolter, pretty standard. You're going to spend the same amount on combi weapons here as you would on any sergeant, pretty much anywhere in any unit in the game. Very consistent, which is nice and also interesting, considering the fact that these models do have ballistic skill 5, so they're hitting better than a standard Marine. But there is no point fluctuation here. You're paying about the same as you would otherwise. What's more interesting to me is the amount of a seeming, it's almost like there's a tax here on the Centurion melee weapons. So the Volkite Serpenta and Hand Flamer and the Plasma Pistol, all the, options that are shooting options, pretty standard. 2 points for those two and then 10 for the Plasma Pistol. 5 points for Chain Axe to upgrade from a Chain Sword to a Chain Axe for 1 strength. That's about reasonable, I would say. But everything else seems to be roughly 5 points more well, definitely 5 points more than other units. Now, this does make sense considering that this unit has a high number of attacks. It's got a base 3 attack and a weapon skill of 5. But you pay, let me take a look here. For the options that are similar, it looks like pretty much everything that you can buy for the Centurion is the same price that you would pay for a Legion Praetor, which of course is a more specialized HQ unit, a more effective close combat unit with more attacks, more wounds, and a higher weapon skill. But the Centurion does pay the same amount for all of those things. It's just an interesting observation. Now, some of that will be adjusted because the discount comes in when you're taking a look at the different extra bonuses or things that you're adding onto the consoles, because the Legion Consularis rules, when you start adding templates like Siegebreaker or whatever else, for example, the Vigilator does get a free upgrade of a weapon, and the Champion does as well. So some of that is baked into this cost, but if you're wanting to do anything outside of this, you're going to pay for that on a premium, which is sort of interesting to me. Now, there are, of course, 2 other data points for the Centurions. There's the Legion Cataphracti Centurion in the Cataphracti plate Terminator armor, and then, of course, the Legion Tartaros Centurion, which is in the Tartaros pattern, a little bit sleeker looking Terminator armor, okay? So the stat lines for these 2 characters are the same, other than the fact that the Cataphracti loses 1 inch of movement, going down from 7 to 6. However, they gain the heavy subtype, so that if you place them in a unit of heavy models, then they all get to reroll their blast saves. The Cataphracti Centurion is also 85 points to the Centurion, the Tartaros Centurions, 75 points. And this is also because the Cataphracti Centurion, because of the Cataphracti Terminator armor, gets a 4+ invulnerable save than the 5+ invulnerable save of the Tartaros Centurion. Both sets of armor do come with a 2+ regular armor save, and while the Cataphracti does have a 4+ save, they also lose the ability to make sweeping advances, which actually is better because they used to not be able to react, and they also used to not be able to run. So Cataphracti actually got considerably better, I think, in this edition. They were already kind of the favorite because a 4+ invulnerable save feels light years better than a 5+. But being able to react still and being able to run if you need to reposition is a really, really good change for them. As far as war gear goes, other than the different pattern of Terminator armor, both are modeled with or come with a combi bolter and a power weapon. A combi bolter is just a regular bolter that is twin linked. So 24-inch range, strength 4, AP 5, rapid fire, but twin linked. And then the power weapon is built into their profile and part of the armor. So that all goes together, and that will cause some reductions in a little bit of prices on upgrades in a minute. In addition to the changes because of the different type of Cataphracti armor that they're wearing, the Centurions also gain the bulky 2 rule, because that's what happens when you put on a strap on a suit of giant armor. But, and this is something I missed before, they also gain, both of these Terminator Centurions gain the inexorable rule. And what this does is it negates any minuses from leadership tests or pinning tests. So if there are ways to cause some of that, like because of shell shock, I think shell shock, is that it? But some weapons have the ability to cause an additional modifier on leadership, and Terminators, these Centurions don't take that, which is interesting, and something that I missed the first time I was looking at these rules. Moving on, though, let's take a look at their other data points and options, and these are all identical down the line. The Legion Cataphracti Centurion and Tartaros Centurion can exchange their combi bolter for a Magni combi weapon for 10 points, or a minor for 5, or just for a Volkite charger for 2 points. So, pretty standard. They can also exchange their power weapon, which, of course, a power weapon, by stating this, it can be a power sword, a power axe, a power lance, I suppose, or a power maul. But you can upgrade to a power fist for 10 points. You can just take a single lightning claw for free, which is interesting. You can have a Chain Fist for 15 points or a Thunder Hammer for 15 points. You can also take 2 Lightning Claws for 15 points and a Grenade Harness for 5. So this is something that's interesting about both of these setups. Because of the fact that you cannot take a pistol on a Terminator, you're not necessarily gaming for that extra close combat bonus for having 2 close combat weapons. So taking something like Power Fist, which is a specialist weapon, so you need to have 2 of them to get the paired bonus anyway, seems more valuable. Or honestly, even just a Lightning Claw, because the Lightning Claw is also specialist in that regards. On top of that, the 2 Lightning Claws for 15 points, it's really not that bad. And depending on your Legion rules and what you're going to do with them, probably worth considering on some of those, because you're getting, remember, from Lightning Claws, if you have 2 of them instead of 1 attack bonus, you're getting 2. And with a Centurion, weapon skill 5, 3 attacks base, you're looking at 6 attacks on the charge for this Terminator Centurion, which is a lot of Lightning Claws. In addition to this, they also have the Centurion rules that allow them to upgrade to specific consoles. However, there are several options which are limited to the Centurions that are in Terminator armor because they're just not allowed to be all of those. Centurions in Terminator armor cannot be a Master of Signals, they cannot be a Vigilator, a Pathfinder, a Moritat, a Praevian, or an Armistos. So interestingly, the Master of Signals, the Vigilator, the Moritat, and the Praevian all have, I guess, official Forge World models, and they are modeled in what would be power armor or artificer armor. So maybe that has something to do with this idea. Thematically, I think it makes sense for the Moritat and the Vigilator to not work out in Terminator armor. Master Signals and the Praevian, I guess, I don't know that I necessarily love that. The Armistos is designed to stand with a heavy support squad, so yeah, that makes sense too. But you're not missing out on a lot. You can still be a librarian or an esoterist. You can still be a champion, a forge lord, the Primus Medicae, which is super important, Siegebreaker, chaplain, of course, the Delgatus, and the Herald. So there's lots of other things you can be. Oh, and the Mortificator, but that one got changed a lot, which we'll get to. So there's definitely still a lot of options. So when we're looking at these layouts right from the start, one of the things to point out is that you cannot, in fact, get a invulnerable save better than a 5+ on one of these Centurions unless you put them in Cataphracti armor. So if you are looking at one of these and you want one of these special battlefield roles filled by one of these HQ choices, the Cataphracti Centurion is going to be the most probably survivable out of the bunch. So that's at least worth looking at, because instant death is definitely a thing. Characters do find themselves in combat with other characters that have power fists or sergeants who are literally only there to squash other characters. So a 4+ invulnerable save versus a 5+, it matters a lot. However, there are some things that don't work out like that. A Vigilator, for example, or a Moritat. But just taking a look at those things, it's something to consider before we move forward. So the first console type that we're going to take a look at, and this one will be probably one of the easier to talk about, is the Master of Signals. It is a 35-point upgrade from the standard Centurion format of 60 points. It cannot be given to a Terminator, which again, it makes me sad, but whatever, it's not that big of a deal. And it has a very specific battlefield role. The Master of Signals gains a special rule called Strategic Comms. And Strategic Comms says, once per turn, when any friendly unit is called upon to take a morale or pinning test, that check may be made using the leadership characteristic of the model with this special rule, or any other model in the same unit as the model with this special rule. In addition, as long as this model with the special rule is on the battlefield but not in reserves, then all reserve rolls made by the controlling player may be re-rolled. Okay, so this is obviously a nice leadership boosting thing, and it totally makes sense. The Master of Signals has improved the comms of your forces, and so as long as this person is on the field, then you get to test at a leadership 9 with any unit that's on the board. If you have it with another character who's even a leadership 10, then you get that bonus, which is pretty great. So if you've got this character in a squad with a Praetor, I mean, you might want to do that. So that is a pretty good skill on its own. The re-rolling reserves is also pretty fantastic. I think a lot of people are going to take a look at the Master of Signals as a way of bringing in their own deep strike assaults or outflank assaults or subterranean assaults a little bit more efficiently. So it's definitely something to take a look at. And I think that anyone who is going to be relying on deep strike might want to consider looking at converting or buying a Master of Signals. The next thing is to take a look at the war gear that they receive. So for that 35 points, they gain that special rule, and they also gain the following bits of war gear. They gain a Cognis Signum, a Vox Disruptor Array, an Augury Scanner, and a Nuncio Vox at no points cost. Then, however, it says, a Master of Signals may not select a combi weapon of any type, a boarding shield, a bolter, a power fist, a thunderhammer, lightning claws, a bike, or a jet bike. So interestingly enough, they can take a jump pack, but that's it, pretty much. They can take jump packs, and they can take power swords. And actually, does it say? Oh, it does say thunderhammer. I thought that might have been accidentally somehow misplaced or not listed. So basically, the options that this character has are pistols, and they can take power weapons. So if we take a look back at our options, you're looking at a plasma pistol, you're looking at a Volkite Serpenta, or then charnable weapons or power weapons. You're probably not going to upgrade this model very much. And honestly, because of the utility that they provide, because of their other special war gear, I can see not putting anything on this unit. Maybe if you feel like it's important for an HQ to have a ceremonial power weapon, I would totally give them a power sword or something like that, just to mark their position in office. But I don't think it's necessary. Hopefully, probably, you want this person in the back attached to a shooting unit because of the other cool things that they can do. So I've covered in my other content the Augury Scanner and why it's such an amazing item, but this character gets one of those for free. That itself would be a 10-point upgrade for any other squad. An Augury Scanner prevents any model from being deployed within 18 inches of it via the Infiltrate special rule. A unit that includes at least one model with an Augury Scanner ignores the 24-inch limit in line of sight when making shooting attacks with night fighting. So one of the most painful things about night fighting, not being able to target very far across the board. They just ignore that. And then finally, when an enemy unit is deployed to the battlefield from reserves, a unit that includes at least one model with an Augury Scanner may make the Interceptor advanced reaction without expending a point of the reactor player's reaction allotment. This does not allow the unit to make more than one reaction per phase, but does allow the controlling player to exceed the normal 3 reactions limit in a given phase. This is the thing about the Augury Scanner that just makes it almost kind of broken. And so putting this guy in with a shooting unit of some strength will guarantee then that you've got the ability to, do just that. Make sure that you are able to react to any units coming in off the board. The next thing that they have is the Cognis Signum. The Cognis Signum gives the unit night vision. So, kind of doubling up from the Augury Scanner, just totally ignoring night fighting problems. In addition to that, a model with a Cognis Signum making a shooting attack in the shooting phase they can just not shoot and instead make sure that all of the other models in the unit gain a bonus of +1 to their BS for that shooting phase, and only that shooting phase. This is not cumulative, and no benefit can benefit from more than one bonus from a Cognis Signum. So this is one of the reasons why you might not upgrade anything. You might not be giving your Master of Signals a pistol or anything else, because why do they need it? You're probably going to put them with a squad that is going to instead want a +1 to hit. So, like, for example, Iron Warriors, put a Master of Signals with the Iron Havocs. No, not Iron Havocs, I'm sorry. The Tyrant Siege Terminators. So now you're shooting a ton of missiles at ballistic skill 5, or, hitting on 2s instead of hitting on 3s. It's a really, really effective boost. It's an amazing force multiplier. And again, it's a part of the bundle that you get for just 35 points on the standard Centurion. They also gain a Nuncio Vox, which is it has rules that basically help with scattering. While at least one model with a Nuncio Vox is present on the battlefield and not embarked in a vehicle or building, their controlling player can reroll any scatter rolls made, whether it's part of a weapon attack or deployment of a unit, as long as the model with Nuncio Vox has line of sight to the unit deployed. So it's not within a specific range, just as long as you can see where either you're trying to shoot or where you're trying to deploy, then you get to re-roll that. Scatter, which is great. So the next piece of war gear that's important to talk about is the Vox Disruptor Array, which has some very unique interactions with the way deep strike, assaults, and deep striking in general works. So while there's at least one model with a Vox Disruptor on the battlefield, regardless if it's a friendly or enemy, any attempt to perform a deep strike, a drop pod assault, aerial denial drop, or subterranean assault is disordered on the roll of a 1 or a 2 or a 3 instead of just a 1. Interestingly enough, outflank all day, the Vox Disruptor Array has nothing to say about that. You're doing just fine. It's not going to bother with those. So the way all of these deep strikes work is that you make a reserves roll. If you successfully pass, then you place the first model of your unit, and then you roll a standard scatter. Once scatter is completed, as long as everything's okay there, then you roll an additional dice. Normally, on a 2 through 6 on that second dice, everything's fine, and then the controlling player can deploy the rest of their units within a certain amount of distance to the original unit. However, if you roll a 1, then it counts as disordered, and then instead your opponent can place the rest of the units within X amount of inches of the first unit, and then they don't scatter even. So for deep strikes and for drop pod assaults, this distance is anywhere within 24 inches of the original. You can just drop them off there. And for subterranean assaults, it's 12, strangely. But regardless... Now, obviously, a disrupted assault is bad for you if that's your forces coming on, and the Vox Disruptor Relay makes it a disrupted or a disordered deep strike on a 1, 2, or a 3 instead of just a 1. So a dramatic increase in a chance of your opponent having an opportunity to place your models. Now, this got FAQ'd, thankfully, because originally it did not state that the Vox Disruptor Array could be controlled in any way, shape, or form, but the player who controls it has a chance at the beginning of the turn to decide whether or not it is on or it is off. So if you are fielding a Master of Signals and you are bringing it so that you can bring on your Deep Strike Assault more efficiently, you decide, of course, at the start of the turn that you want it, you're hoping to roll a successful reserves roll, that it's off. But on other turns, or if you're not actually bringing it along to help your deep strikes, you're just bringing it along to disrupt, then you just keep the thing running at all times. Now, how would I use this unit? I think that I would buy a standard Centurion, I would give them this upgrade, and I would maybe consider giving them a power weapon that I hope that they never use, just so that I can model it on the model, or just so that I can, feel like it's part of the flair of the thing, because I don't necessarily like the idea of taking a special character without any special weapons. That being said, I'm really not going to do much with it other than probably put it into a squad with a bunch of maybe heavy weapons or just special weapons, because I'm hoping to use that Cognis Signum every turn to try to make that squad's shooting a little bit better. I would definitely put it into a list that had, some deep striking, maybe a little bit, but I also might just put it into a list if I know that my opponents are going to be doing a lot of deep striking. I've played one game with with a Master of Signals, and it did in fact come in handy as far as scattering my friend's stuff as it came in from deep strike. So I think that is how I would do it. I included it in my Hammer of Olympia list for Iron Warriors, because even though I wasn't bringing anything in from deep strike, because the right of war prevents you from doing so, it still turned out handy. The next one we're going to talk about is going to be the Legion Vigilator. The Legion Vigilator is 35 points on top of the base Legion Centurion of 60 points. And so it is, again, only available to regular Centurions, not Terminator Centurions. So what do you get for that? 35 points gets you the Marked for Death and Master Sniper special rules. And the controlling player may choose to grant the Vigilator either Scout or Infiltrate. So no matter what here, you can infiltrate with them. You can put them into a unit that has Infiltrate, and you can put them on the board forward if you wish. You can also give them Scout. They could technically join an outflank if they wished, which is all pretty cool. Marked for Death is a very interesting rule with potential for some pretty big game impact, but it is also a rule that I have forgotten 2 out of the 3 games in which it has applied. So Marked for Death says that at the start of the battle, once both enemies have set up all their models, including Infiltrator, a single enemy unit may be chosen by the player that controls any models with this special rule, and this unit is considered Marked for Death. When any models with this special rule controlled by that player are used to make an attack of any kind against that enemy unit that has Marked for Death, you reroll 1s to wound. So if you have 4 units with Marked for Death, you only still get 1 target unit, but all of your units that have this marker, Marked for Death, do get, in fact, to use that bonus. There are quite a few units that have Marked for Death. Mostly, though, for most legions, it's going to be Seekers, and it is going to be the Vigilator, which is cool and good, because that's one of the places that I'm going to suggest fielding a Vigilator, where I would put them if I was going to put one into my army. So the Marked for Death and the Master Sniper special rules. The Master Sniper special rule is unique to the Vigilator, and it says when making a shooting attack with any weapon that has the Sniper special rule, a model with this special rule adds the Rending 2+ and Shell Shock 1 to the attack. If the attack already has Rending, they do not stack with those provided by the special rule. Use the highest 2 of the variants. Okay. On top of this, a Vigilator gets for free, for that 35 points, you get all these special rules, plus you get a master-crafted Nemesis Bolter and Melta Bombs at no additional points cost. You are restricted. You cannot take a bike, a jet bike, or a jump pack, and you have to be out of Terminator armor. So they're just on foot. That's the only way you're going to be able to field these guys. So if we're just looking at the points breakdown, a Nemesis Bolter is going to be 10 points for any character, and Mastercrafted is usually about a 10-point upgrade itself, and then Melta Bombs, 5 to 10 points depending on how you look at it. So this just the war gear alone is roughly what you would pay if you were going to buy something like this for the Vigilator. In addition to that, you get these special rules. So it's a very cost-effective unit, even though it is restrictive. Okay, so let's talk about how you would use this unit. I would not necessarily buy anything extra for this unit, and here's why. So a Legion Vigilator has a ballistic skill of 5, so you're going to hit on a 2+. It's a master-crafted weapon, which means you're re-rolling 1s, which gets you a very, very, very high, like, ballistic skill 2+ means 83% of the time you're hitting anyway, and then you get a chance to re-roll at a 2+. So you're very, very likely to hit. Now, after that, despite you ignore any strength of this weapon or whatever else, because you have Rending 2+. Rending 2+ means that no matter what, as long as it has a toughness characteristic, you wound on a 2 at AP 2. In addition to that, it also adds an additional armor penetration roll, but you're probably not going to be shooting anything with this gun as far as armor goes. This is mostly for killing characters or, well, sometimes maybe even pinging dreadnoughts. But on top of that, it also has the Shell Shock 1 special rule, so any unit that takes a casualty from this shot takes a pinning test at a -1. So we're already talking about how penalties on leadership have a dramatic effect on your ability to pass leadership or pinning tests. So Shell Shock 1 is great. But if you look at these rules as well, you have an extremely high chance of causing an injury and killing a 1-wound model with this unit. Even if they have, for example, Artificer Armor or a Feel No Pain, like if you're targeting like a squad sergeant, okay? They're just banking on that Feel No Pain because you have a near 100% chance, or it's roughly 90% chance to hit and wound this model. And then, so it's very likely that they're going to have to take that save. So those two things together are even better because, of course, you've got this marked for death special rule. So if you're targeting the same unit as your marked for death choice, then you're rerolling ones to hit and you're rerolling ones to wound, and that's very impressive. The thing that's important to note about the Vigilator is that because Centurions have the Relentless special rule, as talked about before, they can run and gun with this Mastercrafted Nemesis Bolter. So you could put it, this is what I've done. I've put a Vigilator in with a squad of Seekers for my Firewing army. They're going to be, because the Seekers also have the Marked for Death rule, both the Vigilator and the Seekers are going to get a benefit from targeting that Marked for Death target. So that's good. There's extra synergy there. There's a reason for you to be targeting it so you're not wasting shots one way or another. This is a really good unit. I think thematically it fits into some lists specifically, but considering the fact that the way Marked for Death works, where you just get one unit anyway, it's not really penalizing you for just taking one unit with Marked for Death, or one Vigilator and one squad of Seekers together. So, like, let's say you're playing a standard list, like a Pride of the Legion or whatever else, and so typically your focus is going to be on, Terminators and Veterans. Well, you're going to probably be a smash your face kind of, up in your opponent's grill sort of player with that. If you choose to take a squad of Seekers and a Vigilator on top of that for a little bit of extra flavor and flair to break up the monotony and design simple single focus design of your army, you can specifically position this unit at, infiltrating and everything to decide what it is that you want this squad to kill. So it's a really useful additional tool. It acts as a nice complement to an army that is otherwise designed for, close combat or whatever else. It's really effective. It's really cost efficient. And I very, very highly rate the Vigilator. I think it'd be boring to see just tons and tons of snipers on, the board. But if I were fielding like a close combat focused army, I think this would be a fun thing to take to add an additional dimension to my army list. The next one we're going to talk about is the Legion Pathfinder. And the Legion Pathfinder comes with the Scout, Infiltrate, Move Through Cover, and Pathfinder special rules. So a ton of rules. They increase their movement characteristic to 8, and they gain the Skirmish subtype. In addition, they must exchange their Artificer armor for Scout armor for no additional points cost, and they gain a Mastercrafted Astartes shotgun for free. So right away, let's take a look at that. We're looking at a character that we're buying and building, and it's going to have a 4+ armor save and a 5+ invuln at best because it's a Centurion, but it gets a Mastercrafted shotgun. Okay. So the Pathfinder has a couple of things going for it, I suppose. One is that it's very cheap. A Pathfinder upgrade costs 10 points, which is probably good because you're losing a ton of survivability with that armor change. The other thing is you do get a bunch of rules, including Scout, Infiltrate, Move Through Cover, like I said, and Pathfinder. Pathfinder allows you to ignore dangerous terrain tests, which is actually probably pretty beneficial in this edition. There is going to be a lot of dangerous terrain popping up, and dangerous terrain is different. It's much more dangerous, I think. But with all of that, Move Through Cover allows you to ignore the effect of difficult terrain for movement and charging. Pathfinder allows you to ignore dangerous terrain entirely. Infiltrate and Scout allow you to set up in different ways. I think mostly the reason you're using this unit is because you want to attach it to something that you can put into an outflank strike. It's not a terrible thing. It's 70 points base for this unit. I don't think I would ever give it a weapon upgrade other than maybe a ranged weapon upgrade, because why are you going to take a character, give it extra combat weapons, bump up its cost 50%, and then have it go out there with a 4+, 5+ save? That seems silly to me. So I've spent some time thinking about this, and I've tried my best to imagine a scenario in which I might use this unit. The thing about this unit, it can scout, so it can go into an outflank assault. But the thing is, because of the way Outflank works, it doesn't grant it to a squad, so it's not like you're going to bring it to help, piggyback a unit into Outflank Assault that wasn't there before. So it's not like the Warmonger used to be, in last edition, where you would buy this just so you could give 1 unit deep strike. There was a lot of utility in that. It was worth an HQ slot for something like this. The one thing that this guy does is allows you to ignore dangerous and difficult terrain, essentially. That's nice, I guess. And I suppose depending on, I mean, maybe if you are playing a Rite of War that has a lot of difficult terrain, dangerous terrain, or if you're playing against an opponent who creates a lot of those features, I could see using it, I suppose. But the HQ slot is a really competitive slot. I know we're just talking about Centurions, but you have to bring at least one of these guys, at least one Centurion or HQ choice. If you want to run a Rite of War, you have to bring either a Del Goddess, which we'll talk about next time, or a Praetor. So that's one of your HQ slots sorted. You have to then think about all the other HQs that you could possibly bring. Now, we've talked today so far about the Master of Signals. We're going to talk about, or we talked about the Vigilator, and we're going to talk about the Moritat. And all of those have very flavorful roles. They're really effective at doing certain things. They're really fun. This unit doesn't have that. I'm sorry. I just don't see why you would do this. It's got anti-synergy towards surviving. It would allow you to do one specific thing, get 1 unit maybe to an easier charge if they had to charge through difficult terrain or dangerous terrain, I suppose. I just don't think it's very fun. It's not effective. A master-crafted shotgun is just not cool enough for me to rate bringing this squad. Listeners, please tell me that you have come up with a cooler idea for this unit than I have, and tell me that I'm wrong. I would love to hear that I'm wrong and that I've missed some very obvious idea for this unit, but I just don't get it. The next regular Centurion or Artificer Armor variant only option is the Legion Moritat. Legion Moritat gains Scout, Counterattack, Bitter Duty, which means that they can only be placed with destroyers, and the Chain Fire Special Rule. In addition, a Legion Moritat may never be selected as the Army Warlord, so this is always a second HQ choice that you're throwing in there. Okay, the Chain Fire Special Rule. Holy crud, it's half a page. Let's get to it. So when you're using Chain Fire, you can declare a shooting attack, but it can only be pistol weapons, and you may do so instead of making normal shooting attacks during your turn. Specifically, this cannot be part of a reaction. When you make a Chain Fire attack, the model with this rule can make up to 6 attacks in the same shooting phase with each of their weapons. Now, if they have a weapon like a Serpenta that allows you to shoot twice because it's a pistol 2 weapon, this means you can have a total of 24 total attacks. How's your math skills holding up there? 2 pistols. Each attack shoots twice. 6 attacks each equals 24. Still with me? All right, good. You roll to hit for every one of those shots. You may never re-roll those hits. And specifically, it says that weapons that don't roll to hit cannot be used. So no template or blast pistols. Are there some? I suppose, yeah, there might be. Okay. When making a Chain Fire attack for a weapon that has Get Hot or Armor Bane. So right now I can think of, Blood Angels have those Infernus pistols that are Melta pistols. And then we'll talk about Gets Hot in a second. You roll individually. And if you roll a 1, you stop rolling for that weapon immediately. No further hit rolls may be made with that weapon for the remainder of the phase. So if you have 2 pistols with Gets Hot, you can shoot both of them. If one of them rolls a 1, you stop with that pistol, but you can shoot with the other. So you're going to want to roll 1 at a time individually for these kinds of weapons. Volkite Serpenta, just pick up your bucket of dice, go to town. Okay. After making a chain attack, a model with a special rule and any unit therewith cannot declare a charge. So you're probably not going to want to put these with, well, if you're putting them with an assault destroyer squad, plan for the fact that you can't charge with them. And when making a chain fire with more than 2 appropriate weapons, you have to select and use the same 2 for the whole deal. So I can see, is there a way to get 3 pistols on a Moritat? There probably is. But regardless, you have to just use 2 from start to finish. As far as war gear, the Moritat gains rad grenades. So that's good. That's typically like a 10-point upgrade, and it's kind of specific. Now let's get to the spicy stuff. A Moritat may not select a combat bike or a jet bike, which makes sense. How are you supposed to shoot 2 pistols while you're, riding a bike? It looks like they can, and this makes sense because the Forge World model has one, but you can have a jump pack. But the spiciness comes from the fact that the second bolt pistol that they gain for additional points, you can exchange any bolt pistol for a disintegrator pistol for plus 20 points per weapon. A disintegrator pistol is 12-inch range, standard, strength 5, AP2, pistol 1, instant death, and gets hot. So gets hot in this edition. It is, again, a little stronger. You roll to a 1. If you roll a 1 to hit, it's a gets hot roll, and then you immediately take a you are struck at the AP value of the weapon. So with an AP2 weapon, this is bad news. You're just going to take a wound. So for a console, this means that you got 2 wounds, so that's good. But I just want you to take a second and figure out or think about what this means. So if you have 2 disintegrator pistols and you are shooting 6 times with each pistol, then statistically you should roll 2 1s. Okay? A 6-sided dice has 6 sides. And if you roll a 6-sided dice 6 times, math says that you will roll 1 1. You should. And you're doing that twice. So statistically, you should get 2 1s on this thing. So your Moritat, mathematically speaking, is nearly guaranteed to kill themselves with 2 disintegrator pistols. Now, that being said, you've got to hope that you roll your 1s towards the end of your 6 dice so you get your other shots, because of the chain fire special rule, as soon as you roll a 1, you stop rolling. So if you have the bad fortune of rolling that 1 on the first attack for both of those weapons, you could very easily jump this Moritat out there, spend the points on them, have them get close to a target they want to destroy, and immediately kill themselves at the start of their shooting. Now, you can still get to roll your invulnerable save, but again, because it's a Centurion, the best you can do is because it's a Centurion and you can't put these in Terminator armor, the best you can do is a 5+ save. So you do not have like the highest outlook of surviving this. Now, that being said, a disintegrator pistol having an instant death rule means that it will absolutely light up any infantry equivalent that it shoots at. Instant death, doesn't matter how many wounds you have. This model is going to do some work. It's going to kill some things. So, but let's take a look at this all told, though. So, depending on your layout, you're going to take the Centurion at 60 points. You are going to spend a very impressive 45 points for the upgrade. The Moritat is one of the most expensive console options you can have. Then, depending on how you're using this thing, I think a lot of people will want to put them with jump packs so they can get someplace and unload before they get shot off the board. So that's 20 points. So now we're looking at 125 points. And then maybe you're interested in taking disintegrator pistols, 2 of them for 20 points apiece. So we're looking at a very expensive model. All told, this is 165 points. Okay. Now, that's reasonable still for an HQ, if it's an HQ that's going to last most of the game. But this is an HQ which has a very, 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 very high likelihood, very high chance of just smoking himself. So am I going to do this? Do I recommend this character? Absolutely, I recommend this character. Are you kidding me? This guy is dual-wielding death itself. Absolutely, you should build one of these things. I'm totally going to add one to my list what do I want to put him in? I don't even know. I haven't decided yet, but yes, I'm going to build one with disintegrator pistols. Yes, is he going to die every game by his own hand? Probably. But it's such a cool meme. Are you kidding me? Like, sometimes at some points in your lists, you're probably going to be looking at building, and if you're like me, maybe you get to a point with the last like 500-600 points of your army list, and you're thinking to yourself, I've already included a lot of really efficient, really tough stuff. How do I soften this list down, or how do I make it fun as opposed to just really tough? Crazy Moritat with disintegrator pistols, probably going to kill something in response. Maybe going to wipe out, a squad, maybe. But very likely going to kill themselves too. 10 out of 10 as far as humor and unpredictability factor, though. So I can't stress enough how cool I think this idea might be. Now, somebody asked me, they saw that disintegrator pistols were an option here. So does that mean plasma pistols are not an option? No, that's fine. You can still take 2 plasma pistols because the Legion Centurion has it on their list. So you may exchange a bolt pistol for a plasma pistol for plus 10 points. Plasma pistol is a lot more friendly as far as how likely you are to murder yourself, but it still has get hot. The biggest difference is because the plasma pistol has AP4, then you are going to still get your 2+ armor save against the wounds you're taking, as opposed to just going right to wounds because of the disintegrator's pistol's AP2. The Volkite Serpenta is only a 2-point upgrade, and that is probably where, if you're looking for like the most efficient way to actually field this unit, that's definitely the way to go. This one model will get 24 shots, hitting on 2s. As I talked about before, oh wait, did they get marked for death? I can't remember. They do not get marked for death. Well, that's a bummer. But so they're not going to get to reroll 1s. Well, they can't reroll 1s anyway because of the chain fire. Never mind. I'm having a seizure here. But 24 shots, you're still looking at a lot of hits, and you're looking at a lot of hits. You're looking at a deflagrate weapon even there, so you're going to kill a couple units and then cause a couple more saves because of the Volkite Serpenta. I think that would be probably the crunchier way to go. Still cool, still fun, not broken by any stretch of the imagination. But don't you want 2 disintegrator pistols? I think you might. Special shout out to the Iron Hands. This will be the one and only time I shout them out, but whatever. Iron Hands can actually take graviton pistols on their characters. If they could take a plasma pistol, they could instead exchange it for a graviton pistol for free. So if you're an Iron Hands player, a graviton pistol dual-wielding Moritat is also a hilarious idea. Whatever vehicle or dreadnought they roll up on is just going to die, which is pretty awesome because of haywire and whatever else. Now, the last thing that's sort of interesting to think about with a Moritat, whatever options besides that, because of the fact that they've got bitter duty, the only squads that they can enter are destroyers or the like. So if you put it in with a destroyer squad to safe keep them so they can go someplace and do the shooting, they won't be able to. The destroyer squad won't be able to charge after they fire. So that kind of changes perhaps the way you think about these guys working. However, if you just want to go lone gunman and just have them go solo and try to go after a target, you're going to definitely need to work to keep them safe and not sniped off the board before you get to whatever it is you're trying to shoot. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is the fact that with the reaction return fire being so powerful, depending on what you're trying to shoot, if they can shoot back at you, it might be mutually assured destruction. Well, maybe that's not such a big deal if you're a disintegrator dual-wielding Moritat, I mean, you're going to blow yourself up anyway, so go ahead and use your stratagem. In that case, there is a reason, there's an idea behind taking them solo and just having them go point and click and delete something else. Now, the biggest thing, of course, is making sure that whatever you're going after to delete is something that is at least equal points value to the 160 some point Moritat you're wielding. But I mean, A Dreadnought, that seems like a decent trade, point for point. Maybe a heavy support squad, a squad of Terminators. There's lots of options that might be out there on the table. Swapping one for one isn't necessarily a bad idea, depending on how lucky you're able to get. But it's worth looking at. And honestly, like I said, it's just a fun model. It's a fun idea. So there are a couple of other Centurions that are still Artificer armor only, but we are going to save those for next time because this is already stretching quite long. I'm looking forward to talking about more options. If I was going to recap, basically I think that the Moritat's a cool idea. The Master of Signals is definitely great. I am not sold on the Pathfinder whatsoever. And I just don't think I can see a use for it in almost any situation. But the others are flavorful, fun, and definitely useful. So we'll catch you next time with some more Centurions, and we will get into some of the units that actually can take the Terminator armor, which I think because of that 4+ save is going to be important for us to talk about, including one of my favorites coming up, the Champion. Thanks very much. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.